often maybe have heard of a Sabbath in that they don't go to work. What does your Sabbath look like?
I began to observe some friends in the next season of life when when my kids were younger, and I noticed such a frazzled state. And I also noticed that some of my friends were needing to get therapy and medication and intervention, and that their bodies had just said, no, I can't. And so they could not pick themselves up to do all the things. And there was just something that occurred to me, that the Bible listed Sabbath as a commandment in one of the 10 Commandments. It made the cut as a commandment. It's not a suggestion. It goes on to talk about it in the New Testament. And it is those moments where you are still before the Lord. And I wondered if there was a correlation to your body shutting down in your 40s, to the fact that in your 20s and 30s you did not take that Sabbath.
Sure.
And I thought, I think it was Augustine that said, preparation is power. And there's just something about being proactive. I thought, rest, Sabbath, it isn't just a suggestion. He wants that time with us. To me, when I think of Sabbath, I think of my kids coming in for their back scratch. And I mean, it's every night. And it's usually not just a back scratch. It's, will you rub this shoulder? And will you rub my lower back? And will you scratch my head? And, it turns into this, sometimes
Lengthy.
Insulting amount of time.
And there's 3 kids.
And there's 3 kids. But I think about how, when I don't get that time with them, I become jealous for it. I want that time with them. It's when they tell me all about their day. It's when I hear about friends. It's when I hear the names of these new friends they're making and what they want to do tomorrow, what assignments, all these things. And I think that's what Sabbath is for us in the Lord. When we just go and get tended to, when we relax in His arms and just breathe out and be tended to. And I think He longs to tend to us in that way. We cannot have it if there's a remote control in our hands. We cannot have it if we are, talking with other people. It is a stillness with Him, and it's intentional, And so that began to be clear to me as I would spend that time with my own kids, that I needed Him to tend to me, especially when they were younger and my mind was just a splintered mess of thoughts that I just couldn't seem to make cohesive. But when I would have a nap, when I would lay down, when they would lay down, I was so much more refreshed. And that's when Sabbath began to unfold for me, and I began to be more intentional about having it as a regular part of my week. It's not necessarily on Sunday.
Is it one day a week?
It's generally Wednesdays, which is today.
Just today.
And that was a gift, that my husband was able to give me. Sabbath hasn't always been a clear time for me, but it is now. And over the years, I've conveyed to Sean what it means to me and how it refreshes me. And as a homemaker, that's really important, because a homemaker to me is gets to be the heart of the home. And if I am to tend to all these people, I must be tended to, or I will not do a very good job. So Wednesdays, He's pretty much given me. I don't go into the office. I work 2 days a week with Him. I don't do school field trips. I don't have a board meeting. I don't do choir, church committee things. Wednesdays have become a day for me to be tended to.
Describe what you wouldn't have a video camera here on your Sabbath. So describe what a Sabbath day would entail.
Okay, a Sabbath day entails me not really having a plan. I wake up, I'm in my home, I get my kids to school, and chores are done, but it's just me and God, and I just ask him to show me what he wants for that day. And often I find it's not errands, it's not running around, it is just being in my home, being quiet, maybe listening to a sermon online, or writing in a journal, or crocheting, baking, something that is a process that is for the good of my home or my family is generally what he leads me to do. And so it's just a day without a plan. It's just a day that I literally ask him to give me his plan for that day. And he almost always invites me into the garden or into just a quiet place with a book.
And how long have you been having your Wednesday Sabbath?
Sean gave me that gift at the beginning of the last school year. Before that, I would try to have those on Sundays after church. It wasn't about TV. We weren't allowed to just come home and turn on the TV. The kids would have a quiet time, and I would usually start mine with journaling. So it's much kinder. It was a nice gift